Picture this scenario for a second. You're standing right at your front door, fumbling around for your keys. You've got like 5 ridiculously heavy grocery bags cutting into your fingers. Your phone is somehow slipping out of your pocket, and you are just completely overwhelmed. Then someone walks by, maybe a neighbor, a friend, or your partner, and they ask, "Hey, do you need a hand?" And what do you say? Despite the physical pain, despite the absolute ridiculousness of the situation, you immediately reject them. Or, maybe it's not groceries. Maybe it's a massive crisis at work or a deeply personal emotional struggle where you are literally drowning in stress. Yet when someone throws you a lifeline, your absolute first reaction is to just push it away. So why do we do this? Why do we actively choose to struggle completely alone?
No, I'm fine. It's a completely automatic response, isn't it? I mean, the words are flying out of your mouth before you even have a chance to consciously process that someone is offering you help. Now, on the surface, this refusal kind of masquerades as strength. Society loves to applaud this rugged individualism, right? We tell ourselves we're just being capable or resilient or strong. But the truth, according to the research we're digging into today, is entirely different. The struggle to ask for help isn't actually about your current capabilities at all. It's a deeply, deeply ingrained way your brain has learned to handle the world.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to peel back the psychological layers of people who simply cannot ask for help. We're going to figure out why our minds actively resist support, and why just the thought of reaching out can trigger this sudden, huge surge of anxiety or even shame. If you recognized yourself in that grocery bag scenario, well, get ready, because we're about to decode the fascinating and, honestly, sometimes heartbreaking reasons behind your brain's invisible walls.
Okay, Section 1, the myth of independence. Let's get right into it.
Let's start by completely stripping away the illusion that struggling alone is just simple stubbornness. If you have ever beaten yourself up for being too hard-headed to accept a favor, listen to me. You can let yourself off the hook right now. Your brain is doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It's not a character flaw. Actually, scratch that. It is a highly specialized, highly active defense system. In clinical terms, what you're experiencing is often rooted in what psychologists call avoidant attachment, and it shows up as hyper-independence. This is an absolutely crucial reframe. Your refusal to ask for help is an emotional self-protection tool. Your brain is literally trying to mitigate the risk of relying on someone else. It's calculating that letting someone in is way more dangerous than just carrying the heavy load by yourself. It's a highly successful survival mechanism that kept you safe in the past, even if it's completely outdated for your life right now.
Moving right along to Section 2, a childhood survival mechanism.
To truly understand this, we have to peel back that first layer of the psychological onion. This behavior, it doesn't just randomly pop up out of nowhere when you hit adulthood. It originates way back in early life experiences where, quite simply, support was not a guarantee. If we track how this develops over time, the progression makes perfect sense. It starts in childhood. Imagine a kid who routinely felt unheard, dismissed, or who operated under a dynamic where they felt they had to be their own sole provider. During their crucial development phase, that kid learns that fixing things isn't just a fun little choice. It is an absolute necessity. They develop this premature emotional independence just to stay safe. So what happens when that child grows up? Well, their adult brain still treats asking for help as a massive risk. It vividly remembers a time when no one was there to answer the call, and it is terrified of feeling that vulnerable, disappointed, and abandoned ever again.
All right, Section 3, the identity of the fixer.
Now, what's really interesting here is how this childhood necessity eventually morphs into your core adult identity. When you spend your entire life handling things on your own, you eventually start tying your personal worth to exactly how useful you are to other people. On the outside, you get this perceived benefit. You wear the shiny badge of honor of being the reliable one. You're the person everyone calls when things hit the fan. You feel valued and needed only when you're the one actively solving the problems. But man, look at the hidden cost. Deep down, there's this intense internal anxiety that if you ever stop fixing things, or worse, if you ask for help yourself, you lose your value. Your mind tells you that if you aren't useful, you're replaceable. You just keep stepping in to fix everything around you because it's literally the only way your brain knows how to secure your importance in other people's lives.
Which brings us to Section 4, fear, control, and judgment.
Let's go a layer deeper and see how this builds into an active barricade against human connection. It basically boils down to a psychological trifecta: fear, control, and judgment. These are the deep-seated emotions that actively prevent you from reaching out. They form this rigid structure that keeps everyone else right at arm's length.
We can break down this defense system into 3 distinct protective shields. First, there's the intense fear of being a burden. Second, the desperate need to maintain a buffer zone of stability through control. And third, using hyper-independence as a literal shield against potential judgment and criticism. Let's unpack each of these, because understanding them is exactly how we start to dismantle them.
Let's start with the fear of being a burden. If you grew up in an environment where your emotions were ignored, or maybe you were constantly compared to others, your developing brain internalized a deeply painful underlying belief: I'm not that important. And that creates a lifelong habit of hiding your needs. Even when your world is completely falling apart, you stay quiet. You don't want to inconvenience anyone, right? Your brain has convinced you that if you ask for too much, people are going to get tired of you and eventually leave. So staying totally silent feels infinitely safer than risking that ultimate rejection.
Next up is the element of control. Life is inherently unpredictable and messy, but when you just do everything yourself, you create this predictable buffer zone of stability. When you ask someone else for help, you have to let go of that control. You have to trust their process, their timing, and their methods. For the hyper-independent brain, that loss of control is just agonizingly uncomfortable. So here's the absolutely crucial takeaway. It's not always that you don't want the help. It's that, psychologically, you would literally rather fail on your own terms than succeed by following someone else's rules. Crazy, right?
And then we have the fear of judgment. This is heavily tied to the scapegoated child dynamic. If you grew up as the kid who was frequently criticized or blamed for things, you developed a hyper self-awareness of your every single action and mistake. You overthink everything. You become terrified that asking for help is an admission of weakness, a weakness that other people will inevitably use against you. So silence becomes your shield. You don't ask for help because you are actively avoiding the pain of being judged or being told yet again that you're just not enough.
All right, let's turn the corner here. Section 5, Unlearning Hyper-Independence.
So we've broken down the architecture of these invisible walls. But here's the good news, and I want to emphasize this strongly. Because these patterns were learned, they can absolutely be unlearned. We're going to shift gears now and look at how we start moving forward and busting out of this isolation trap. First things first, we have to acknowledge the reality of your situation. You have likely built an incredibly deep tolerance for solitude. Because you've spent so long relying only on yourself, being alone with your massive problems feels natural to you. Honestly, it probably doesn't even feel lonely anymore. That is a profound level of resilience, and it's a huge testament to your strength. But remember, that strength came from survival, not choice. Independence is a wonderful skill for sure, but your brain has essentially forgotten a vital piece of the human puzzle. Connection and support are also fundamental survival tools.
So how do we actually rebuild that connection? It happens in steps. Step 1, recognize the self-protection. The very next time you automatically say, "No, I'm fine," I want you to stop and realize your brain is just deploying a defense mechanism. It's not a factual assessment of your actual capacity. Step 2, understand your mind's resistance. Trace it back. Are you afraid of being a burden? Are you afraid of losing control? Label that fear. And step 3, let the burden be shared. You've got to start incredibly small. Literally, let someone help you with those heavy groceries. Prove to your brain in safe, low-stakes environments that asking for help does not equal abandonment.
I want to leave you with a thought that completely flips the script on what you've been taught about being strong. Your whole life, you've used isolation as your armor. But what if that armor is exactly what's exhausting you? What if true resilience isn't just carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders until you literally collapse? What if your ultimate strength is finally found in having the courage to let people in? Think about that for a minute. Because once you start understanding these hidden psychological patterns, you start seeing yourself and the people around you in a completely new light. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really look forward to decoding more of the mind with you next time.
If this made you think differently, hit like. Most people will forget this by tomorrow. Don't be one of them. Hit subscribe, and I'll make sure you don't. What do you think? Agree or disagree? Let me know below.